Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly powerful narrative about human transformation. We're going to dive straight into a paradigm-shifting idea, one that completely rewrites how we process pain, suffering, and ultimately, joy. We'll be looking really closely at a woman named Julie and how a chance encounter with a group of walking monks fundamentally changed her entire life. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. For someone with thoughts of suicide, the idea that nothing lasts forever is not a threat. It is a lifeline. Just let that sink in for a second. Most of us are absolutely terrified of the fact that nothing lasts forever, right? We want the good times to stay. But for Julie, navigating through literally some of the darkest moments a person can possibly experience, this single philosophical concept became the very thing that saved her.
Section 1. A lifeline in darkness. Finding hope in impermanence.
So to really understand her transformation, we kind of have to set the stage. Julie grew up in the Bible Belt, with essentially a blank slate for a spiritual landscape. There were no deep conversations about higher powers or an afterlife, just, the festive basics like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. The real darkness first arrived in her 20s. She found herself standing at the edge of Atlanta's massive Spaghetti Junction highway interchange, just completely overwhelmed by the urge to turn the lights off on an existence that felt way too heavy. And for decades, through a blindsiding divorce, the sheer exhaustion of single parenthood, and eventually a really frightening melanoma diagnosis while caring for a sick friend, that temptation just constantly haunted her. But an awakening was waiting for her.
Before she found her path, though, Julie's journey was nearly derailed by a really horrific betrayal. A friend had suggested she seek guidance at a local church for her depression, but instead, she was assaulted by a trusted member of that institution. And when she came forward, the church protected the abuser to keep his position, leaving Julie completely alone in her trauma. Absolutely disillusioned by this institutional dogma and hypocrisy, she took a walk in the woods and basically begged the universe for a better way. And out there, she realized something simple. It just feels good to be good. She decided to let nature be her temple, centering her life on kindness rather than broken dogma. She took back her agency, proving that, hey, morality doesn't require a pulpit, just a heart willing to stay soft.
So fast forward a bit. At age 40, a brief visit to a Tibetan monastery planted a really vital seed. She was just there to learn meditation for stress, but a monk introduced her to this concept of impermanence. It's the truth that all states, including deep, deep suffering, are temporary. And Julie had this profound realization. If nothing is permanent, well then her pain was also impermanent. If she could just hold on a little while longer, the feeling would eventually have to fade.
Now, normally the idea of impermanence brings this sense of dread, right? A fear of losing the good things in life. But Julie's view shifted entirely. For someone in deep suffering, the end of a state is the very definition of hope. By accepting that her darkness had an actual expiration date, she finally found the space to just breathe.
Section 2. The Walk for Peace. Joy is not the absence of suffering.
All right, so let's accelerate to late 2025. Facing that melanoma diagnosis, Julie sees a news report about a group of monks on a walk for peace, and she just begins following their journey. These monks were walking across the entire country in ice, rain, and scorching heat. Julie watched videos of them, and their feet were heavily taped to cover these agonizing blisters and open wounds. Their bodies were literally battered. And yet what captivated Julie so much was that despite this immense physical suffering, they radiated the hugest, most genuine smiles she had ever seen.
Joy is a state of being that exists alongside suffering. Seeing these broken bodies radiate pure love proved to Julie that her own suffering, her own, bad deck of cards, did not have to dictate the end of her joy. They weren't smiling because they weren't in pain. They were smiling while completely embracing it.
Section 3. Mahadam Smile, the intersection of tragedy and peace. And this brings us to the real climax of Julie's realization, which is centered around a specific monk named Mahadam Pamasan. While on this walk for peace in Texas, he was hit by a car in just a horrific accident and tragically lost his leg. When Julie finally went to meet the monks in person on January 1st at Wat Lao Budakanti, her initial reaction upon seeing Mahadam in a wheelchair was just deep, heavy sadness. I mean, think about it. Here was a man walking for global peace, permanently grounded by a violent tragedy.
But then, as the other monks approached Mahadam to say their goodbyes, he wasn't sad at all. He had the absolute brightest smile she had ever seen in her life. The other monks knelt before his wheelchair, holding his hands with this joyous reverence that literally lit up the street. And her sadness completely dissolved. She realized, and this is a quote, I have never seen this much love in my entire 56 years. I want to live like that. I want to feel like that.
Section 4. Playing the long game. Shifting the paradigm.
Witnessing this incredible display of peace made Julie commit to a fundamental change. She started actively seeking guidance, listening continuously to Venerable Bhikkhu Pannakara's Dhamma talks to figure out, how these monks navigated the world. For years, she had operated on this one-life mindset, which basically led to victimhood, resentment, being mad at God for a bad deck of cards, and constantly asking, why me? But through the monks' teachings on karma, she shifted to a long-game perspective. Understanding life as a journey spanning thousands of lifetimes entirely removed her victimhood. It changed the question from why me to how do I respond right now to remove suffering?
And this long-game view was incredibly practical for her. It even helped her process some really difficult teachings, like the concept of honoring parents. For someone who grew up with alcoholic parents in a highly strained environment, that was a tough pill to swallow, for sure. But viewing those difficult relationships as part of an ancient cycle of shared karma and suffering, it finally made it click. She stopped fighting the deck she was dealt and realized her parents were simply trapped in their own cycle of suffering too.
Section 5. Unlocking your own peace. The miracle of the craft room.
Which brings us to a final serendipitous lesson that just beautifully ties all this deep philosophy into actionable everyday agency. Just one day after receiving a new blessing bracelet from the Walk for Peace, Julie's 17-year-old beaded monastery bracelet, the one she'd worn since she first learned about impermanence all those years ago, finally broke. The beads scattered everywhere, perfectly symbolizing the death of her old self to make room for the new. So she goes into her craft room to repurpose the beads, and she turns on a teaching by Venerable Bhikkhu Pannakara.
And while she's sorting her supplies, she hears him say this: "Mindfulness is the key. I am handing you the key, but now you must unlock your own box." And you guys, the timing of this moment is just unreal, because at the exact second those words were spoken, Julie looked down on her craft table. Sitting right there in her craft room was a pile of key charms. I mean, no way, right? This wasn't just a coincidence, it was a call to action. Julie realized she was no longer a victim, waiting on the edge of a highway interchange for the lights to go out. She began making key bracelets to remind herself and everyone she meets that while teachers and monks can provide the tools, the actual application is on us. We hold the agency to unlock our own peace, one mindful breath at a time.
Julie's story shows us that suffering is inevitable, but staying in it, that's a choice. We don't have to flip the switch off. We can choose to light up the world instead. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought, directly inspired by Julie's journey. If you viewed your current struggle not as a permanent tragedy, but as a temporary state in a journey of 1,000 lifetimes, what key would you use to unlock your peace today? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible story with me. Keep learning and keep unlocking your peace.